Hey, I'm Shapiro with Wholesale Real Estate for you with another educational piece in regards to breaking the cycle, Big Mama and Big Papa's home after debt. In this topic, we'll be discussing how this cycle actually starts. Also, we'll be discussing ways to break the cycle if you are still alive, and we'll be discussing ways to tackle this issue after death amongst your relatives or your loved ones. So let's start. So unfortunately, a lot of families lose their inherited real estate properties once their loved one dies. Often people refuse to create a will and die without it, believing that their family members will handle their properties without conflict because they were the best of siblings or family members before their death. This has been proven to be false often. When a person dies, family members, friends, and others will all process the debt differently. Some people are angry. Some do not want anything to remember the person and may feel content, and others view their debt as a financial gain. Many people also lack the knowledge of how to create a will, in which it is a simple process. Relatives that do die with a will sometimes may leave real estate inheritance to families, friends, or others who are knowledgeable of how to care for their property. The main purpose of this topic is to provide you with resources and education to move forward with securing your real estate property before or after you die. So this process starts in regards to vacancy with your loved one's property after death. After a person dies, their property becomes vacant if they haven't taken the necessary steps to actually secure it with family member that's interested in the property and either living in there themselves. And when I say a family member, I mean a knowledgeable family member of how to care for a real estate property. Or the family all have their own properties that they basically are dealing with, and they don't want this property as an extra burden. So that property of their beloved loved one becomes vacant. And when a property is vacant, it can accumulate a lot of things within the neighborhood. It is a eye opener for criminal activity if it becomes vacant for too long in certain neighborhoods. It also is an eye opener for homeless and squatters. And if the property is vacant and it has the maintenance for as the loan has not been kept up, then the property eventually becomes blighted in distress. This truly impacts neighborhoods and communities because what it does is that distressed property lowers the rest of your neighbor's property value within neighborhood. Blighted property, once it's blighted, eventually then occur liens and judgments from like delinquent taxes that has occurred on the property due to no one caring for it and paying the taxes, as well as code enforcement liens can be placed on it due to the property's condition, whether it's non-livable anymore and it may have some issues with the property to whereas it needs some repairs. Some want to oversee things that may be unsafe in the neighborhood to other neighbors in their real estate, depending on how blighted the property is. Once the property has code enforcement liens as well as tax liens, then your property or your loved one property can be a candidate for a real estate auction, whether it's a tax lien auction, a real estate property auction, or whatever it may be. Once this property goes to the auction, then the property is gone. This is how a property that a loved one has expired, has left. This is the steps to a property when no one has been delegated to oversee that property. Then your inheritance is lost. Now, in some incidents, depending on what type of auction the property goes to, it still is a possibility that you can regain your inheritance back. But once you are able to regain, if you are, then you and your family start to break the cycle of this. Breaking the cycle of real estate properties from your big mama or your papa entails you and your family coming to a family discussion on what is the best choice to proceed in caring from this property. Whether it's one person taking in ownership and rehabbing the property to live in it or sell it before the property is totally gone. That's a hard decision, but it is a necessary decision that needs to be discussed among family to proceed any longer on what y'all would like to do with this property. Then the next step is to finding if our beloved one has left this property with any debts. Is it any bank owed debts on the property? Is it free of any liens? Did anyone utilize the property as collateral for to take care of some debt that they may had? Or is there any judgments from the beloved one that was on the property? So that's something else that you can actually consider. Once you have gained the knowledge of, and you can gain all of this knowledge by simply doing some research from your tax assessor's office, and as well as public records within your city and state. We'll have all of this information in regards to this particular piece of real estate. So once you have gathered all of that information, then the next step is to see if there was a will or not. If there wasn't a will, then basically, depending on the decision that you and the rest of your relatives have decided, then you would move forward. If there was a will, then this will delegate someone to actually take care of this property. A succession or probate needs to be done, depending on what states that you are in and this loved one has passed. Now, once that has been accomplished, that gives that person who was willed the property full access of this estate that their loved one has left. However, these legal procedures can be done within companies that can provide the legal work, such as ours, or pro bono attorneys. Are you looking into keeping this property once you gain ownership? Or are you looking to sell it? Those are some options that you can actually ponder on yourself. Can you afford to keep an additional property if you already have existing real estate? Is there another family member that's going to be helping you with the property to keep it up? So these are some things that you can contemplate on. Now, the best way overall is when dealing with breaking the cycle of these type of issues, the best thing is to do it while that loved one is still living. So what that looks like is with the family, when you reach a certain, the middle of your life, so middle age, 50, probably in between 50 and 65, you want to have these type of conversations with your family and your loved ones in regards to what they should do with your assets and pertaining to real estate assets. Once you leave here, you have the option to make that choice. So don't pass that option. Utilize it and utilize it wisely. This is also the best way to proceed with your real estate versus it going through the different processes that were discussed. So first you discuss it with your family, and once you come up with a decision, whether it's to delegate one person to the property or it's to actually just keep it as a family property. Now I will say this, okay, and this is something that you can kind of take in consideration. When loved ones pass, it brings on different types of perspectives from different relatives. Some people look at your debt as the ability to gain, financially. Some people don't want anything to do with it, your assets, because they just, they find comfort in the time that you were here and the time that y'all spent, and that's it. and other people grow angry. So they do things that may be out of their character because you are not here any longer. So these things are to be anticipated on after your death. Of course, you see your family as one lovable family that would never do this that we have gone through. There's always a change in a person's perspective after their loved one has died, unfortunately. When you're making these decisions with your family, if you have one home, okay, and if you will it as a family home, you need to make sure when you're making this choice that you have considered that all of these family members are willing and able financially to maintain the maintenance of this property, taxes, and if you did leave a loan on the property, they are able to pay that. Because if not, that may be issue with the property. They may lose the property due to the fact of trying to pay your debt if there is a loan. Therefore, you may have some conflict within certain family members as well. So if you typically have children that you're leaving the property to, make sure that child that you're leaving the property to financially able to and physically able to maintain this home after you leave here. Because a lot of families, they delegate this responsibility to relatives and family members due to the fact of trying to secure them a home. The way that you can secure them something after that is maybe taking consideration of actually selling the property and allocating the proceeds to that loved one to kind of help them to achieve their own, I want to say, livable space, whether it's renting a property or actually finding them a home for themselves. Because a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to. They think of selling the property, they letting go of their inheritance. Keep in mind, homes, there's a lot of memories that take place in the home, but the home itself is just a structure. So the memories that took place in this home are still within you and your relative. That's why we say make wise choices when deciding on what to do with your property and you still are here. If you are leaving the property to someone, make sure that the debts are either paid or this willing and capable individual that you're leaving your real estate to is on all of your real estate property documentation. And what I mean by that is making sure that they are on the deed before you leave here. Their name has been recorded like at the tax assessors so they can be informed. The tax statements that come out on a yearly basis, anything that's in regards to your real estate, just make sure that they are aware of it if you're leaving it to individuals or relatives or friends of your family. Also, making sure that their name is indicated on insurance statements that's in pertaining to the home. You know, if you pay insurance to a certain company or whatever the case may be, make sure that they are knowledgeable of all this. The more that they are knowledgeable of the things that's going on with this real estate property that you have, that's the better they are in regards to take care of it, and the better that you and your family are in to keep your inheritance. So these are little tidbits I want to say that we discussed in our just regular educational video today in regards to breaking the cycle of Big Mama and Papa's home. However, we have a lot of additional resources we can provide in regards to these type of properties and these type of situations. Contact information, as always, is indicated in the bio. Feel free to leave any comments that you feel may be resourceful. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. And once again, this is Shapiro with Wholesale Real Estate for you. Have a good day. Until next time.